Hey everybody, I just wanted to do a bit of a chin wag today, or a little bit of a show and tell. As by the title of the video, you can probably tell that I am getting into a new game. And I wanted to talk a little bit about getting into Adeptus Titanicus in 2025. Now, it is an older game originally, and it is actually something that had come out quite a long time ago. It's one of the first, it is the first, epic style game or small scale game by Games Workshop. The game that came out in 2018, which is essentially the game I'm playing now, was done in the spirit of the older game, but it is very much its own rule set. And so it is not like exactly the same. They just tried to keep it in the same spirit, but really update it for modern gaming players, essentially. The reason why I originally consider this is I came across a video on Plucky's Tabletop Horror is the name of the YouTube channel, and it's about essentially a tournament that actually happened recently in the UK for Adeptus Titanicus, and it's really similar to the title of this video. It's basically saying, Adeptus Titanicus in 2025, and it's a video about why you should consider getting into it, and they go into a lot of reasons. Some of them I would mirror when I talk today about why I'm getting into it, and some of the reasons are a little bit different for me. As many of you know, I started, just from talking on the Musty Wargamers and talking on this channel, I started my wargaming mostly with Rogue Trader. This is kind of what I initially came across the Warhammer universe through. Now, I was a teenager, and to be honest, I didn't know the rules as well as the imagery and just getting into the models and all of that stuff at that age. And so I'd played a little, but after, I was kind of exposed to the background of the 40K universe, and then after high school and going to college, I hadn't wargamed until I was an adult. I had this huge gap in my wargaming. And so but this kind of planted seeds. So then I essentially got back into 6th edition Warhammer, and that's when I've been really wargaming ever since. That was in around I'm going to say it was around 2012, in that area. And so I really like the background of Warhammer 40K, so much so because I've been immersed in it with video games and with the Rogue Trader originally, and then getting back into Warhammer. I like it more than fantasy, even though the old world and Warhammer Fantasy is sort of my main game that I like. And so while I was reading a lot of the books and things like that on 40K, one of them, this is a limited edition book because I really like the story so much that it's the only time I ever bought a limited edition one, and I got this book, Scutari, essentially Adeptus Mechanicus Scutarius. And then I also got the regular book, Adeptus Mechanicus Tech Priest. And I have so many books of the Horus Heresy that I'm not bringing all those out today, but I just wanted to show a couple of these. I don't coincidentally have Titanicus. I'm probably going to get that and read it as part of this project. But I really enjoy the lore, I really enjoy the Mechanicum, and so all of that stuff really feeds into this. Now, one thing I'll just mention is I stopped playing 40K for a number of different reasons. One of them is, at the time, I actually was starting to really not like the game so much after 7th edition, and then there were a number of things that prevented me from bringing me back to it in some ways. Part of that really can be seen in some of the fantasy side too, where they're always updating the game. I saw this at the time where they're always updating it. You would have, either White Dwarf magazines or other things coming out, so the game seems to be changing so frequently, and it's just kind of hard to keep up with it. I kind of like contained rule sets where I don't mind FAQs and some updates to just kind of right some wrongs, but I don't really like new things coming out every month that can change the way the game plays significantly. And so that's kind of prevented me from getting back into it. And to be fair, my time playing Warhammer Fantasy 6th edition and then now Old World, I've never liked the 40K gaming, and I don't want to offend anybody, it's just my personal preference. I've never liked the 40K gaming as much as the fantasy side. So even to this day, like, I like the fantasy mass battle game much better, even though I like the lore better for 40K. So it's a bit of a dilemma, because a big part of the miniature gaming hobby is enjoying the background and getting really passionate about the models. And you know, it's not that I dislike the fantasy lore, I just don't know it as much, so I can identify with a lot of the races and have fun with it. And I do like what I read in the codexes and things, but I'm just not as invested, you know, in the IP as I am with the 40K and 30K and Horus Heresy. So, that's basically, another thing is, I don't see myself stopping playing the fantasy gaming, and I don't really have a lot of time to play, to take on another big 28mm game. And so I already play like a GW game that takes a lot of time of painting. You have large armies and things like that. There's a lot of miniatures. And I'm enjoying that. And you might ask, well, if that's the case, why do anything else? You know, and that's true, you know, like that's a choice. But because I actually really enjoy the Horus Heresy, I kind of, when I saw that video, got a little bit of a pull. Recently, I sent the guys from the Musty Wargamers that kind of host the show, like Dan, Tim, Rusty. I sent them a picture that I did of some 3D printed stuff that I bought in order to play Apocalypse, which is this here. Now, I've never got to play this game. It just turned out that the one person that I was going to be playing this at a small scale, like using this for like basically 6 to 8 mil, never printed models and painted, just didn't get into it, and so it just sort of sat. But I had like all of these models. I'll show a picture, you know, of this army that I was painting, Ultramarines, and then I was doing, you know, planning on doing Titans as well. And I really love those models, and I really, just the imagery and like the background just really pulls. It's just a really great universe to play in. And so I decided to pursue Adeptus Titanicus, and I got a starter set. And so I'm not going to go through what's in this today, and most people, if you're interested in well, I'm not going to like go do an unboxing. It comes with, I'll talk a little bit later about what the starter set kind of comes with, but I'm not going to like do a detailed unboxing because there have been videos for years on it already. It's not a new starter set. But you might say to yourself, like, well, like, what's going to stop you from having the same problem of like somebody not playing it today, like, you know, and just having it sit aside? That's always a possibility, because you do generally need at least one other person that you can consistently play the game with. But I do know of a couple already, local people that are interested in playing it. And so there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to be able to play this. But then I'm hoping by supporting it that we can build a little bit of community around it. Something that I haven't mentioned for those of you wanting to get into this is that they first came out with this game in 2018 before Legion Imperialis, and the focus from GW is very much Legion Imperialis, which is essentially you can use these models as well as all of the others, meaning like, you know, infantry troops and tanks and planes and just everything else, like it's all mixed together. And you might ask yourself, well, why don't you just do that, because then like the player base should be a little bit higher. I think I'm more interested in this game than that, because I like it feels a bit more of like a specialized game. Each particular miniature you do a lot with, and you don't have as many, so it's kind of like a skirmish game, just on a like this epic scale. So like, you know, I don't usually think of skirmish games with huge robots above cities with like lots of going on and stuff, but it is kind of like that, because each miniature you have to manage like shields and plasma reactors, and you have to like, you know, just do all kinds of maneuvers, and there's just all kinds of different things that you can do in the game depending on who your princeps is and their traits, and you know what kind of maniple and how you're organized in with your titans, what kind of legion you subscribe to, and what kind of abilities they provide you. So like, there's layers of rules that really individualize both your legion, your miniatures, your strategy of the way you're deploying them, that make it really interesting for the few models you have on the table. And you don't, to my understanding, really have that as much in the Legion Imperialis. It would be probably more similar, I'm guessing, to the Epic Apocalypse that I've played in the past, which I really liked. It's a great game, but I'm looking for more something a little crunchier like this, and this seems to sort of fit the bill. And that's the reason why I would actually choose that over the other. And so, beyond that, there's a big part of the community for this is, you know, just like all of them, like painting and modeling is and the hobby side is really important, but people get really into their Titans. And so once you, in particular, probably once you have, you know, your first few painted, and when people are adding on more, they kind of take their time and they try to pose them really well, and they do all the modeling stuff that you guys are probably familiar with, but it tends to be fairly consistent, you know, from what I can see in the hobby, in this community, to actually spend lots of time on your Titans, and, you know, always kind of working on one and adding it, and you know, trying to really kit it out really cool. With my 3D printing, I'm already thinking about like putting little Mechanicum, small tiny, you know, soldiers and vehicles and stuff, like, you know, like on the ground, and doing like cool stuff with that, which is just fun. It's a big part of the fun. So I'm really looking forward to that. The only other thing, I guess, that I would say, because I'm going to try to keep this somewhat short, besides showing the back of the box, or telling you what's on the back of the box, is that in addition to the YouTube channel that Plucky's Tabletop Horror I mentioned, there's a YouTube channel, Maximal Fire, which seems to be a really popular one when it comes to Adeptus Titanicus. And there's also, in addition to the YouTube channel, a Discord channel that has all of the people, I think, in the tournaments that I was talking about, and a lot of people in the community that are playing are on that on Discord. Really helpful. I went in as a total noob, and, you know, I don't try to pretend to know what's going on, so I ask a lot of dumb questions, and I've already been in there asking questions and, you know, just chatting with some of the folks on there, and they've been really good. They're kind of a community that really loves this game, and I think that despite the fact that, you know, like, it's still on the GW website, you can still buy the stuff, and they're still like part of, like, on Warhammer community and things like that. Like, it's one of their games still listed, so it's not a dead game, but it's definitely taken a little bit more of a back seat than some of the other games. But they still, GW, as I understand it, is still kind of talked about supporting it, and it's still, you know, technically part of the fold, so to speak. And I think people would like to keep it that way. So, yeah, so that's kind of my reasons for getting into it, and I just thought it might be fun to make a video about it, in case anybody else might be interested. I hadn't even thought about it until I saw that video, and now I'm really quite excited. What this starter set comes with is, it actually comes, you technically could do this as two sides if you wanted, and one little thing that's cool is when you actually make a Titan Legion, you can either be good guys or bad guys, traitors or loyalists, because technically speaking, almost if not all of the legions you can rationalize were either, you know, went as traitors during the Horus Heresy or loyalists, and so you can really just be a traitor one particular game, you can be a loyalist the next game with the same paint job. As you can see, they kind of split it up into like what it looks like two forces here. What they have is a Warhound and a Knight, and then a Reaver Titan, and they basically have it mirrored over here. Like, what I would plan on doing is painting these all up the same and just putting them towards the force that I'm going to be building. In addition to that, you're going to get the rule book, and you're going to get, you know, like, some markers. They use command cards in this game, and so one of the things that's really cool is that you have like a command card that you actually don't use just for information, but you manipulate. You put markers on the card, and you know, the reactor goes up and down, your shields go up and down, damage you actually put on there. And so there's lots of information and things that you have to track on your card for each Titan, which is very cool. So you get cards for that, cards for weapons, you get dice, you get measuring kind of sticks, you get templates. I'm not sure what this is. You get looks like maybe there's a quick start on here for I'm not sure about that. So yeah, and then you get like these. I'm not really sure what they are. There's some sort of battlefield assets, like they show like bunkers and things like that. I'm not sure how they work in the game yet because I'm still kind of new to it. But yeah, it looks like a really great starter box, in my opinion. I'm really excited to paint this stuff up. So if you guys are playing Adeptus Titanicus already or played in the past, I'm interested in what you guys think about the game. And maybe be something that, for the same reasons I talked about, maybe there are other people that were in the same sort of position that kind of wanted something that wasn't maybe as all-encompassing as getting into a bigger game like 40K, but something that you can really get into the rules, like where you're really enjoying the strategy and the thinking part of the game, like, you know, as well as the hobbying side. And just kind of having a mirror of that without having like necessarily the same level of commitment, if that makes sense. That's a bad way to say it. I don't know about level of commitment, but it's just the same amount of scale of the game, you know, as you would have when you're going to put armies of hundreds of models on the table. So, yeah, hope everybody's doing well, and talk to you later.